American teens aren't just simply experimenting with skincare, they're redefining an entire industry. Estimates suggest that teens are now spending an average of $1.7 billion annually on skincare, with some starting routines at the tender age of 12, fueled by the age of social media, trends, and influencer culture. Many are adopting complex, multi step regimens with as many as 20%, spending as much as $50 a month on products, according to Yale Medicine. And in this episode, I had the chance to sit down with my friend, Dr. Angela Casey, who is a double board certified dermatologist, a fellowship trained Mohs surgeon, educator, and the founder of Bright Girl, who's working to bring clarity and common sense back to skincare as a physician and a mother of three. Dr. Casey offers a grounded and practical approach that cuts through the noise. She shares how parents and teens alike can move away from overwhelming routines and focus on what truly works and what truly matters. Proper cleansing, effective moisturizing, and consistent sunscreen use. Her philosophy centers around the pillars of prevention, education, and building lifelong habits which protect and support healthy skin. We also explore how the Bright Girl platform is assisting families in navigating skincare with confidence and empowering young people to understand not only what to do, but why it matters. Through her community of over 50,000 followers, Dr. Casey is making science accessible while encouraging meaningful conversations around the concepts of self care, confidence, and long term wellness. If you're a parent, caregiver, or teen trying to make sense of this skincare boom, this conversation delivers clear, concise, trustworthy guidance, along with a refreshing reminder that sometimes simpler is indeed better. And Dr. Casey joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Dr. Casey, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn how you're helping young women value skincare. It's great to see you, and happy Tuesday to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, I am a dermatologist in Columbus, Ohio, and it really is such a privilege and such an honor to take care of patients every day, use our skills to help them. And my goal with Bright Girl Skincare is to really empower our younger generations with the tools and knowledge to properly care for their skin in the hopes of preventing downstream skin damage.
Absolutely, my friend. And Dr. Casey, I wanted to start by asking you about why you think people should, why you think young women specifically should care about skincare, and why they should make it a priority early in life, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, so it really comes down to more of a health issue, as opposed to appearance or being beautiful or perfect. It really is more about health. And the reason that it's so important to start those good habits at a young age is because our skin health is cumulative over our lifetime. So if we never take care of our skin in our childhood and teenage years, then that damage and that inflammation and that stress in our skin starts to build up, to the point where it kind of overwhelms our skin's ability to repair itself. And then we get into adulthood, and that's when we see a lot of that skin damage manifesting as discoloration, uneven skin tone, sunspots, and then in some cases, precancers and skin cancers. So it really kind of circles back to that message and the importance of taking care of our skin lifelong, just like we want to take care of our health in general, right? We don't want to eat junk food and processed food our whole childhood and teenage years and then shift to being healthy once we reach a certain age. Likewise, we shouldn't neglect exercise and activities for the first couple decades of our life. We want to start those good habits at a young age, and the sooner the better. And the same applies to skin health and skin care. So, by implementing a few simple rituals and behaviors every day, that really adds up to tremendous benefit for our skin health lifelong. And our skin is our biggest organ.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Casey, I know that you are in a leadership role as the head of dermatological surgery at Ohio Health, as you mentioned, along with your recognition from the Ford Board and Castle Connolly Top Doctors, which establishes you as a leading expert in the field and a credible expert. But I know that your passion generally lies in skincare and making it more accessible. So tell me about your day job, what makes that so fabulous, and how you're working to make skincare more accessible, my friend.
What makes my day job so rewarding is the opportunity to interact with patients every day, work with a really talented staff of nurses and administrative personnel and our lab staff that all make that happen. So, skin cancers are the number one cancer worldwide. It affects 1 in 5 Americans by age 70. So, it really is a tremendous epidemic that we're talking about. So chances are that you or someone you know will be affected by skin cancer in our lifetime. So by being able to provide the services, the care, the specialization to take care of those cancers in our office, and patients come in and they have their skin cancer and we do surgery and remove the skin cancer and perform the reconstructive surgery, all while checking that patient's skin under the microscope to make sure that we are clear of all those cancer cells. It is such a tremendous privilege. And as part of my job, I get to teach and train the next generation of dermatologists. So I work with the dermatology residents at Ohio Health. And that also is such an honor to get to be part of growing our specialty and imparting all the knowledge and wisdom that we've learned in a couple of decades of practice with the next generation of practicing dermatologists. So it's a lot of fun. I learn a lot from them. I hope that they learn as much from me as I learn from them, but definitely keeps me on my toes in terms of being up to date with research and what's new and exciting in our field.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Casey, I'm also interested in asking you about the emotional impact of going along the journey with your patients once they're diagnosed with skin cancer. Because as you mentioned, cancer touches all of us in one way or the other. So I'm just wondering from a personal and medical standpoint, what's the emotional sort of journey like for you as the physician as your patients go along this journey? I'm curious to get your answer there, my friend.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up because it's an important reminder that many of our patients are going through skin cancer, the diagnosis, the procedure of having it treated for the first time. So, just like in many specialties of medicine, we as physicians and providers, we see these conditions all day, every day. So they become kind of second nature to us. And we can, as a result, kind of minimize or really like it kind of like it's important to put ourselves in our patient's shoes is what I want to say. We don't want to minimize how they're feeling about it because to them, like that is the biggest thing on their mind. For us, it's just another day at work. But communicate to them that we understand and hear how they are feeling and do our work to make them feel more comfortable, reassure them. Yeah, so it's so important that we are recognizing that for our patients and then really helping to support them, hold their hand through this whole journey with them, and really be empathetic as providers and making them feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Dr. Casey, you believe that establishing good habits when it comes to skincare is both important for teens and parents. You equated like brushing your teeth and establishing those good habits at an early age. So tell me why a preventative skincare it's such a habit that people should get into the routine of doing. Why do they get so important, my friend?
So it really comes back to that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. When we can establish those good habits from an early age, it's just like brushing and flossing your teeth, like you said. And in doing so, we're going to prevent the large majority of damage that would occur. So the simple act of washing our face every night, making sure we moisturize our skin, and then putting sunscreen on every day. Every day that you do that, it's like putting a deposit in the bank of your skin health. So you're adding a little bit more money, and you're saving up and really kind of building that store or that cushion, so to speak, or nest egg, however you want to look at it, so that your skin is healthy as you go into your adult years, so that you start your adult years leaps and bounds ahead in terms of your skin health. Because if we don't start those habits and we neglect our skin, there is a huge majority of skin damage that occurs in the first couple decades of life. So when we think about our kids and teenagers, they're outdoors a lot. They're playing, they're swimming at the pool, they're doing sports, they're outside with friends. So all of those activities and behaviors, they're outdoors and they're getting that sun exposure, and they're getting exposed to allergens and pollutants in the atmosphere. So if they're not putting on their sunscreen at the beginning of the day to prevent that sun damage, and then likewise if they're not washing their face at night to remove all the pollutants and germs and irritants that they've come in contact with during the day, they're really kind of starting this cycle of inflammation and injury and damage to the skin, where the skin is then having to repair itself. And it's just this vicious cycle that occurs. So when we can get ahead of that with good habits and, like you said earlier, prevention, it's really such a win in terms of getting ahead and achieving that lifelong skin health.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Casey, I know that you were inspired to start Bright Girl because you're a mother of three. So, first of all, happy belated Mother's Day, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lovely Mother's Day. They really made it special.
As they should, my friend. And I want to know about starting this business, my friend, and why your daughters were so inspirational and getting you to take the leap into mother entrepreneurship, my friend. What do you want to share with me in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, so it really was the intersection of these two worlds that are very important to me. One is my career as a dermatologist and dermatologic surgeon, and the other is my role as a mom of three teen and tween daughters. And it's really the intersection of those two worlds that was the inspiration for Bright Girl Skincare. And the issue I was seeing with not only my daughters, but a lot of younger individuals was a failure to really connect with brands that were currently on the market. So, legacy brands that had been used for generations weren't really resonating with our Gen Z and Gen Alpha individuals. And then the brands that they were gravitating towards were really geared to more mature skin. So they were seeing a lot of brands on social media and other modalities where they were kind of inspired by influencers and creators that were using these products, but those products were not really made or safe for skin in the teen and tween years. So that's where I saw the disconnect. It's where I saw a problem myself as a mom and just trying to get my girls excited about using skincare every day. So I thought, why hasn't somebody developed skincare that's really, really elegant, that the formulations exceed their expectations, that is so good that they are going to be excited and they're going to crave using it every single day. And nobody had created it, so I set out to found it. And in 2019, that started the journey of research and development and working with cosmetic chemists and deep diving into the white papers, the research papers on ingredients and how they perform in the skin and how they act together, and then testing formulations, getting feedback until we had really achieved something different, something really special and remarkable, and a brand that our young people could call their own. And we could only do that by getting their input, their feedback. So that is what we did. It was kind of boots on the ground of connecting with all these teenagers and tweens and college students and asking them what was important to them and what their priorities are and how do they like their skincare to smell and how do they like it to feel. And then putting all of that together until we created this really brand that has grown with them and really served a need in that market where there was a gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Guzzi, I want to ask you specifically about parenting and wellness and how they're interconnected because I know that you have a group of about 50,000 parents and teens that enjoy your practical advice when it comes to parenting, my friend. So tell me, how do you think wellness and parenting are interconnected, and what message do you want parents and teens to take away from this conversation, my friend?
Well, I think as parents, one of the most important things we can do is to really model good behavior for our children. So it's kind of that we have to walk the walk, so to speak, and kind of exhibit those behaviors ourselves. So when we place self-care as a priority as we talk about wellness specifically, because you were asking about wellness, are we as parents making it a priority to get enough sleep? Are we making it a priority to exercise? Is it a priority to eat healthy and have good habits, have good skincare habits? Of course, that's important to me. And so when we demonstrate those behaviors and that's how we are living our lives, I think it kind of sets that model for our children in terms of wellness, because we can tell them all the things to do and we can preach all day, but if we are not really implementing those behaviors themselves, I think it's very lost on our young people. They very much like do what we do and don't so much do what we say. So wellness really has to become a focus within the family unit and hopefully something that all of us can come together and enjoy together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Casey, you talk about a smart start when it comes to skincare, and anyone watching or listening to this, what sort of a roadmap can you give them when it comes to a smart start when it comes to uh, skincare? Where can I start, my friend?
Well, I think part of that smart start is learning and understanding about skincare. So, like the first part of that, and one of the priorities with Bright Girl is about educating and empowering young people with the tools, which are the products and the ingredients, but also the knowledge of how to properly care for their skin. Because if you don't have that knowledge and understanding, those habits are hard to stick with and it all kind of falls flat if we don't have that why behind what we're doing. So that's the first part of it is teaching the why behind washing your face, moisturizing your skin, putting on sunscreen every day. And then the second part is becomes like whittling it down. So when we say smart start to skincare, what are the essential skincare products that we need? Because we live in a day and age where it can be very confusing on social media. We see a lot of complicated skincare regimens. We see a lot of like many step routines that can just get overwhelming to anyone at any age. So let's whittle it down to the essentials, which really comes down to using a mineral based sunscreen every morning. So, mineral being you want to look for zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as the active ingredients, and also making sure you moisturize your skin every morning. And then, secondly, at night, we want to be sure that we are washing our skin. So, again, removing all of those pollutants, irritants, everything that we've come in contact with during the day. So, using a gentle pH balance cleanser at night and then moisturizing our skin at night because as we sleep, our skin is going through that rest and repair phase where it's kind of regenerating, it's getting out all the bad stuff, those skin cells are turning over. So, really, when we're talking about smart skincare regimens, again, it's just those three foundational products that mineral sunscreen in the morning, and then cleanser and moisturizer in the evening. Everything else on top of that is extra. I wouldn't say it's not necessary. That's a decision that every individual needs to make for his or herself, but it's not as fundamental to the skincare regimen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Dr. Gussie, I know that a big principle of Bright Girl and your philosophy as a parent is the idea of women empowerment. And I'm wondering, as a mother of three daughters and with the young women you have a chance to work with on a daily basis, how do you define empowerment as a parent? How do you hope to mentor the young women and really knowing their value proposition as people and really exerting their own sense of empowerment? What does that mean to you, my friend?
Oh, I love that question. I think it's so important and so relevant in this day and age, especially given that our young people are growing up in such a confusing society where there are a lot of expectations. They put a lot of pressure on themselves. They feel a lot of pressure from friends, from social situations, from social media. So I think empowerment is when we really equip our young people with knowledge, first of all, because with knowledge comes confidence. So when they understand and they know things, they have that wisdom, that confidence, and then a byproduct of that is that development of self-worth. So when you talk about value proposition, I think education is at the heart of that. Because education is a gift that nobody can ever take away from you. Once it's part of you and it sticks with you. So when we can educate, and in our case, is a brand that comes down to education and skin health. That's our lane that we stick in, and where we have the expertise. But for our young people, when we can bring all of those segments together and we are empowering them with that knowledge and understanding, it's such a win because then they grow from that as individuals. But not only that, there's the ripple effect of them sharing that knowledge with friends, colleagues, other individuals in their life, and that message gets distributed step by step. And that's, I think, really empowering for our young people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Dr. Casey, I know that every day you evaluate skin from cellular level, whether you're evaluating it on patients or under a microscope or even uneven pigmentation, my friend. So, my next question has to do with accountability and what it means for people to really take accountability when it comes to their skincare. How do you think those two are interconnected, my friend?
Well, our skin really is, it's the billboard of our overall health. So I think a good example for our audience to relate to is thinking about how your skin appears when you're stressed, when you're sick, when you're dehydrated, and your skin is kind of dull. It might have a grayish hue to it. It might look blotchy, irritable, but it's really our skin is kind of telling that story of how we are feeling internally. And you contrast that with how our skin appears when we are healthy and we're well rested and we're eating well and we don't have a lot of stress and our skin has that healthy radiant glow, and it just looks balanced and strong. So kind of balancing those two worlds. So our skin really tells the truth about how we're feeling and where our health sits at any point in time. And then when we look at our at skin under the microscope, which I have the privilege of doing every day as part of my job, I can see all of the effects of years of skin damage. So that might be the breakdown of collagen and elastic fibers. It might be pigmentation within the skin from a lot of sun damage. It might be inflammation within the skin. So all of that shows up very clearly at the cellular level, not to mention the skin cancer itself and how that appears um, compared to healthy skin and the difference in how those two look under the microscope. So it really is kind of a tattletale in a way, and it is that marker of accountability. But this appearance of skin under the microscope is the marker of years and years and decades of how we've treated our skin. So if we have taken good care of our skin, and we've used our sunscreen and we've moisturized our skin, that collagen is going to look healthy and plump, and the elastic fibers are going to be strong and resilient, and we're not going to have a lot of uneven pigmentation, and everything's going to look strong and healthy. And in contrast, when our skin has been through a lot of stress, a lot of damage, a lot of inflammation, everything's going to look kind of saggy and pale and worn out. So it really is going to be like the truth serum, so to speak, of how we've treated our skin over our lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Dr. Casey, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this survey or report from Psychology Today. Now, it came out in June of 2021, but I think it's pertinent to this discussion. It found that 58% of teens today in the modern world view their skin care as a major component to their self care and really taking care of their mood and emotional psychology, my friend. So, how do you think taking care of your skincare and your own psychological and mental health are interconnected, my friend? And do you think that 58% number has gotten higher over the last five years with the amount of teens who value their skincare and self care as well. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Oh, I love that. You've done like that's really good research. I'm glad that you've looked into that because I think that's a very interesting statistic. So first of all, one of our mottos at Bright Girl is self-care is health care. And I think that's a really important message because we know that individuals thrive on routines. And we know that, and there are numerous studies that support that from the time we are babies to the time we're toddlers and children. When we have consistent routines in our day, there's a sense of security, there's more structure, there's more confidence, and better mental health, as you mentioned. So that does not go away for us when we get into the teenage years, and it doesn't go away for us either when we reach our adult years. So when we can get those moments during the day where we can really practice self care. Skincare is an easy win when it comes to self care. It's not difficult to do, it's not terribly time consuming, it's not expensive. And that simple act of taking a few minutes to complete an affirmation, to do something good and healthy and kind for ourselves, can have tremendous benefits. It can really set the tone for the day or help us wind down at night. It's not so different from exercising. If you're an individual that likes to get outdoors and exercise and get fresh air, in the way that that can help improve mood and disposition and mental health. And I would guess that that statistic, you said 58% of teens,
Yeah.
I bet that's even higher if we did that study again today, because we are in a society where there's more pressure on teens, there's more expectations, not only from society, but that they are placing on themselves. So when they can exhibit those behaviors, when they can take that time to do something kind and nurturing that kind of pampers them, that self care, as you mentioned, it's such a win in their day because it's really that demonstration of I'm worth it. And I'm worth doing something nice for myself. And now I've done something nice for myself. And that's a win.
Yeah, and as a parent and as a dermatologist, I'm curious to ask you about skincare's relationship to self-image when it comes to teenage girls, because whether it be through the television or social media or just peer pressure when we're navigating our high school and early college years, self-image and, body conscious image are a big thing for teenage girls. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how skincare and self-image are sort of interrelated when it comes to raising teenage girls, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it circles back to what we discussed earlier about our skin kind of being that billboard of our overall health. And in this particular scenario, our skin is what we present to the external world. So when people see us, they see our hair, they see our clothes that we're wearing, like maybe how we express ourselves through fashion, but they're seeing our skin, and particularly the skin of our face in most cases. So as teenagers or college students, when the skin on our face is irritated, if it's broken out with acne, if we're having a flare of eczema or sensitive skin, that can be really devastating to young people because they feel that that is the first and the only thing that other people are seeing when they look at them. So it weighs on their mind, it acts as a barrier. In social interactions, it might cause teens and college students to kind of withdraw and not want to interact with others. It can make them feel awkward. It can make them feel self-conscious. And which is such a shame because as adults, we evolve past that for the most part and probably wouldn't let something like that ruin our day. But as teens and college students and tweens, they really feel like that is the only thing that's on everybody's mind. And you and I know that nobody else cares that much, but for the individual who's experiencing that, it can be a really significant obstacle and can really interfere with every conversation, every presentation, every interaction that they're having during the day.
Yeah, and just on a personal level, for any parent that may be watching or listening to this today or whenever they listen to this, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how you think a success when it comes to being a successful parent is sort of described in this modern, a world of raising kids because I was a late '80s baby, and growing up in the early '90s is a lot different than growing up today, right, Doctor? So I'm curious to ask you about how do you define successful parenting in today's modern age, Doctor?
Oh gosh, I wish I had the answer to that, Kevin. I'm not sure. If you ask my daughters, they might say I don't have it all figured out just yet, or maybe that's just I'm a normal parent, and as with so many of us, our kids never listen to what we do. I shouldn't say never listen. Often say like, "Oh, mom, like you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't understand." However, I do think that we see those glimpses in our kids where there are those moments that they express pride in us as parents. We see them mimicking behaviors that we do because they've seen that and they've kind of taken it and made it a part of their practices. So, successful parenting, I think, comes down to doing our best to be the best humans we can be, treating others with respect, being good members of society, supporting others, lifting others up. And when we're doing that, not just with our kids, but with any individual who's around us, whether it's a friend, a family member, or somebody at the grocery store that's checking you out in the grocery line, and you say, "Thank you so much, Sandra. I hope you have a really wonderful day." And you take that moment to acknowledge and show that respect. I think that that becomes successful parenting. Like we have to walk the walk in those behaviors and set that example. And then when their opportunity presents itself, when we can have conversations with our children about why we did what we did, or why it's important to treat others a certain way, maybe they're not going to listen and absorb every word that we say, but when we continue to practice those behaviors and we continue to have those conversations, hopefully a lot of it sticks, and hopefully we're raising good humans that will be excellent role models and good members of future society.
Yeah, and Dr. Casey, I've got three questions left for you. And the first of those three questions is this. Talking to you and based on your own life experiences, a parent and just navigating the world, I'm curious because one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast in the first place 6 years ago, Doctor, was wanted a platform where no matter what walks of life came from, we could have discussions about hope, prosperity, and really moving the needle of progress forward. So I'm curious to ask you from a societal perspective and from your vantage point, how do you look at the concepts of both hope and prosperity as we try to navigate this divided world that we're living in today, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Mm. That's a tough question. But I guess to simplify it, I think a lot of it comes down to having a growth mindset, as opposed to a scarcity mindset. And when you have a growth mindset and you look at the world and you think of what a miracle it is and what a gift, and the fact that we have interactions with others in these relationships, and you can really take the time to appreciate that. I think that that's tremendous. I mean, when I look towards the future, I have tremendous hope. And I'm tremendously grateful for my health, my happiness, my family, their health and their happiness, my job, my patients, my friends. I'm so grateful for all of those things. And I'm excited and hopeful about what's to come in this life. I think that there's so much more to do. Um, it's easy to get sucked into the negativity and, like you said, the dividedness of society and of our country. And we can choose to let that rule us and become a huge factor in our lives, or we can eliminate it. I don't spend really any time on social media. I don't scroll. I don't get involved in anything political on social media. I just don't think it does any good. And I think it takes a lot of energy that's better spent on more productive things. And I think the more of us that get caught up in it, the more it ignites that fire. So I choose to just stand back and do my thing, and do what I'm good at, do what I love, be with the people that I love. And that's that helps, helps me stay balanced. And I hope that, others will take that message to heart, that if you are someone who is getting stressed and you're getting down from what other people are saying, or you're affected by that, just turn it off. That's the good thing about these phones. We can turn them off. We can turn off our notifications. We don't have to be on, you can delete your apps. The choice is up to you.
Yeah. And sometimes staying in your lane is the best course of action, isn't it?
Absolutely. I am not a political expert. I'm not an economics expert. So I am not going to get online and start postulating about those things. There are a lot of people who are a lot smarter about those things than I am, but I can be an expert in my world, and that's where I choose to stay.
Well, we all, that's what makes the diversity of perspective so wonderful, isn't it?
Indeed,
Yeah,
indeed. That's you're exactly right. Like, we all have our gifts, we all have our roles, and it's what keeps the world turning. It what keeps us going as a society.
yeah, absolutely. And Doctor, my second to last question is this, my friend. I'm a big believer in self-reflection and taking time to reflect on the impact that I've made, and turning off my computer and shutting down my email at the end of the day. And one of the ways I do this, Doctor, I'm an old sports reporter, so I'm a big football guy, but I also don't like to, have time to self-reflect. So I'm curious for you, when you're away from the office, how do you reconnect with what makes you sort of like your fire of inspiration and, of encouragement for yourself personally, my friend? How do you like to self-reflect on what you've done and what you still want to do? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I do make it a priority, Kevin, to take time out of every day. Some days it might be 10 minutes that I'm driving in the car by myself with no podcasts or no music on. If I have more time, I love to go for a walk outdoors and be out in nature, either early in the morning before I start the day, or at the end of the workday. But that space really gives me time to kind of think through things. It's where I find a lot of creative inspiration. I can reflect, like you said, on what went well, what I would change. Like sometimes I have a big to-do list in my mind. I try to kind of shut that down or kind of tackle it in a way that makes it more manageable. But it just, life is just, it's a bunch of choices that we make, Kevin. We can choose how we spend our time in many cases. Yes, there are hours that we need to be at work, and there are hours that we need to help care for our family or our friends or whoever needs that. But we also make conscious choices about what's important in our life. So do you want to spend 30 minutes scrolling through social media or watching a TV show, or is it more important that you take that time to get some physical activity or go for a walk or meditate? I'm not a person who meditates just in like a quiet room. I've never been good at that, but I do meditate while I'm walking. And that works for me. So I think it's individual for each person, but it is an important, I think, gosh, you've mentioned so many wonderful wellness practices. And I'm so happy to talk through this and kind of share that and hope that it helps some of your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Doctor, my last question before I ask it, I'll share just a little bit about myself as I frame this question. So, doctor, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen to walk normally. And I found out at the age of 9 that I would never be able to walk without assistance because of the severity of my disability. And I credit my middle school principal, her name was Dr. Carol Crewley, for changing the trajectory of my life because the summer I was to start my fourth grade year of elementary school, I found out that I would never walk again. And then the day that I was discharged from the hospital, I went into a conference room, and the orthopedic surgeon who had performed all 7 of the surgeries I had relating to my disability told myself and my parents I would never walk again. So I went to school the next day, and Dr. Crewley had everyone assigned my file at school in her office. And I went through the story of what my surgeon had told me the day before. And she looked at me at the end of the story and said that the only artificial limitations that I place on my life are the only limitations that I will ever have. And ever since then, I've lived my life through 2 models: that inclusion is the gateway to independence, and that everyone is in charge of sort of painting their own portrait of success, doctor. So my final question to you is: how do you want to paint your own portrait of success, and how do you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined, my friend? What are your answers then?
Well, Kevin, thank you for sharing that. It's so beautiful. And I think what you shared is so powerful. It's it's hard it's hard to I don't know, I don't want to say compete because it's not a competition, but it's hard to follow that up because it's a really like you are truly living that life of such tremendous inspiration to others through what you've been through, what you've overcome, and the choices you've made about how to live your life. And that is just so incredible. Um, I think each of us in our own way wants to leave that positive impact. We want to inspire, we want to change, in a small way, and I'd say in a much um, like smaller realm than what you just shared. And what I hope my legacy is, and what I hope the legacy of Bright Girl is that we start a movement as it relates to skin health and skin cancer, that we shift that focus is so much to one of prevention and like we talked about, education and empowerment, that we have a tremendous impact on the skin cancer incidence and we start knocking those numbers down. And that skin cancer will no longer be the number one cancer worldwide. Like that is what I hope to achieve. I hope to continue to stimulate that idea, start those conversations, but we can only do that with individuals like yourself in our corner. You have the platform and the community that has so strongly connected with you. And it's such a privilege for me to be here talking with you, Kevin, and sharing how, in this small way, I hope that we make a tremendously positive impact on society and future generations.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Dr. Tully, if people want to get connected with you personally or Bright Girl, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Yeah. Yeah, they can find us on our website, which is just brightgirl.com, and it's spelled just like it sounds, BRIGHTGIRL.com. You can find us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Bright Girl Beauty. That's all one word. And you can also find Bright Girl products on Amazon, Nordstrom, Macy's, Beauty Space, Walmart. So any of those retailers sell our products. We're also sold at hundreds of dermatology practices nationwide. But I invite all of you to be part of that preventative skin health movement. We'd love to connect with you on social media. As I mentioned, I'm not on social media a lot, but the little I do with it all kind of circles back to getting out that education and awareness.
Well, absolutely. Well, Doctor, it was such a privilege talking to you, and I want to thank you for the good work that you're doing to inspire young women everywhere to take control of their skincare and ultimately have a sense of empowerment. I think you're doing wonderfully impactful work, my friend, and it was a real privilege to engage in conversation with you. And I want to thank you for being here. It's most appreciated.
Well, Kevin, the privilege is truly mine. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for all that you are doing to inspire all of us. And it is really tremendous work. So thank you, my friend.